Hello, and welcome back to Chasing Hazel's Tales, a family history podcast presented to you by two registered nurses, all around family historians and sisters. If you got family history, we want to talk about it. I'm Kim McLaughlin.
And I'm Laura Ireland. So we have a few things to wrap up with. We did make it to Sleepy Hollow, finally. What a fabulous weekend we had. And a fun fact that we learned while we were there, I thought it was pretty interesting. The mascot of the Sleepy Hollow High School is the horseman.
Right. Surprise.
I was a little paranoid before we went about the whole headless horseman thing, and turns out I didn't really need to be afraid of it after all.
Yeah, nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Too scary. No flaming jack-o'-lanterns went flying through the air. So I was all right.
But then again, we didn't stay out late.
That is true. That's true. Didn't go down any wooded paths in the middle of the night either. No. But I never gave it much thought over the years with the talk of Sleepy Hollow that we had about what it might be like to be there at Halloween. And I really only considered it as something when we talked about going there to look in terms of genealogy and getting more information about our ancestors.
Right.
But as it happens, it worked out so well, the timing of the trip with your birthday, which just happens to be so close to Halloween.
And it was their bumper weekend. I mean, they celebrate Halloween for 2 months, don't they?
I think so.
I think they start in September and go right through. And I think in the middle of November, there are still certain events that they do.
Yeah.
And let's just say, we nailed it.
Party animals.
We owned that town.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to go over some of the things that we did, and we're selling it because we loved it. So one of the first things we did when we got there was on Friday night we went to a street fair on it's called Beekman Street, and the reason we went there that night was because it had been rained out the weekend before. So we got there on Friday night and we were lucky. It was really nice. They had food, crafters, dancers, local schools of dance. They were cute. I mean,
yeah, little kids putting on shows and stuff. It was fun.
And they were trying really hard. They did a good job. They were sweet. And really what was really nice is the decorations in town.
And what was your favorite one, Kim?
The pumpkin clock.
Maybe you could describe it.
So there's, and you've probably seen it in every picture that you've ever seen of Sleepy Hollow. They have a town clock that's around, that's just an ordinary clock. And, it's right on the corner of a street. And I liked it, but it had a big pumpkin decoration. Of course, the headless horseman pumpkin, the pumpkin face right under it with a scarecrow looking thing and some bales of hay, and it was all decorated. But when someone asked me directions or where, it might have been Laura.
I think we were figuring out a place to meet.
We're going to, we needed to catch up with each other, and we needed, where are we going to meet? Well, I said, the pumpkin clock. It threw Whitney right for a loop. She had no idea. What do you mean pumpkin clock? But was it Whitney or was it you?
It wasn't me.
Okay.
Because I didn't have my bearings yet when we were having that conversation, but I didn't find it that off-putting. I think I would have figured it out, but
so the pumpkin clock
maybe Andrew didn't like the description.
Because I called it the pumpkin clock when it's obviously just a clock with a pumpkin below it. And it just all
it was not a pumpkin with a clock face.
No, right.
Yeah, it was not a pumpkin with a clock face.
No.
It was two separate items. But
together, but I called it the pumpkin clock.
Fair enough. We knew what it was.
But you really can't get too lost in that
right.
little town. It was cute.
And that was in Sleepy Hollow, right?
Yes.
What was it?
Yes.
I don't know. It's so close together there.
The lines of demarcation. I'm not sure which. I don't know what street blurry. You step on, and then all of a sudden you're in Terrytown. I don't know. For those who don't know, so there's Terrytown, and then there's Sleepy Hollow, and they're two separate entities. Although I think they have the same post office. I'm not sure, but it's just that there was Terrytown. It used to be North Terrytown is where Sleepy Hollow which was just, historical name for this area. And in 1996, the town went ahead and said, well, why don't we just call this town instead of North Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow, because that's what everybody thinks it is anyway. And so they changed it then. And anywho, that caused down the road, that caused some confusion. But it's two little villages. They just kind of mesh into one, and it's, one area. They all celebrate the same things. It was great. But just so you know, when we talk about one, it could be the other. They're pretty close to each other. So
right, and they all kind of join in on the same. The legend of Sleepy Hollow is part of their lore, and
their history is that,
it was very, very much present in all of their decorations. It seems to be very, I don't know, very important to them. Anyway,
to their both of their respective towns.
The identity,
right?
I would say the identity.
They both
of the
claim
area.
that identity, and I don't think they separate themselves.
And it's been quite some time. What was it? 1820, I think, when the story was written. 1820.
Okay, that's about right.
Yeah. And another really great event that we went to was the Great Jack-o'-lantern Blaze on Sunday night.
Yeah.
And of course, that was in the rain.
Right. It was raining. It rained all day.
Yeah, that was our only
hiccup, really.
Our only bad weather was Sunday.
Hiccup. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was an impressive thing.
Very impressive. And I said worth our $30, every penny.
How to describe that? I don't even know how many pumpkins were carved.
Well, they say on the website, I don't have it in front of me, but a lot.
And put on display to create all these images and an experience. And there was music and some things moved, and
so entertaining.
It was very entertaining.
And so there we were in the rain. Did you even see one malfunction?
No.
I didn't see one malfunction in the rain with all those people going through there.
And it was very dark when we were there.
Mm-hmm.
But after I got home and I was thinking back on it, and I thought to myself, those pumpkins were also orange. Were they even real?
They must have a way of preserving them to last that long. But I think they must be. But I think they must be treated too.
Yeah. I don't know. But either way, somebody put on a very good thing. It was a very good show. It was a good show, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed my time there looking at all of their displays. Some of them were very artful. Well, most of them were very artful.
Very clever. The one thing I thought about that was they had those tents at the beginning. I just wish they'd had like some hot cocoa. They did have some alcoholic drinks and things like that. A few things, ciders or whatever. But I was thinking, I'm cold. It wasn't bad. It's just that wouldn't a cup of cocoa be really nice right now?
Or even just tea.
A tea or something. But anyway, they put on a really great event. And that was worth the price of entry.
Mm-hmm.
So about $30 or $35.
Yeah, I think we all enjoyed that pretty well.
Yeah, it was fun. Anyway, so we also spent some time at the Historical Society of the Sleepy Hollow in Tarrytown. And that's the exact name because they incorporate both villages, both towns in their historical society because they just mesh. And we were lucky to talk with the curator, Dr. Sarah Masha. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Mascia. So she was amazing. We walked in, had a few questions, and she immediately knew all the people we were talking about. She knew exactly, because of course I told her the families that we were interested in were the Storms and the Van Tassels, and she immediately provided us with a very large volume. That thing was huge. A large volume of the Van Tassel family genealogy. And it was created by, and I forget the gentleman's name. It was a Van Tassel person who put it all together. How many were? It was 4 inches thick, 5 more.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it was in a 3-ring binder and all.
Was it a Daniel Van Tassel like in 1940? Something like that.
It was a while ago, almost 100 years ago, and he did a fabulous job. But it's not something that's in circulation, and I don't know how to. She did mention we might be able to find it in some other places, but it doesn't have an ISBN number or anything like that. So you've got to. I'd have to be able to track it down. But I did get some copies of some pages. There were 15 pages in the index of just Van Tassels. So that was a lot. But she was fabulous, and she told us what they had, and she knew all the history. So my hint to you, or my thing for you, is to always check with the curators, because they know where all the good stuff is. And that was really good stuff. And it was just nice to talk to her.
And it also was very clear in all of the things that we saw, how prevalent that was the area where the Dutch roots began.
Oh, exactly. Right.
That
Right.
was the origin of the Dutch roots in America.
Right.
Was there. And the names are everywhere in that area. Just so many Dutch roots. But
right.
And as we right in that same area, we branched out and started looking through the cemeteries, and we were fortunate enough to find our primary ancestor that we've been looking for. I mean, well, we knew, but we found the stone for Dirk Storm, and his headstone had been replaced. I mean, it looks great.
It's worthy. But what I found interesting was that Dirk's stone was in the best shape in that cemetery, even compared to the Van Tassels, because the Van Tassels were a much bigger family, but I expected them to have some sort of huge memorial. But Dirk had that, seemed very special for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, and you could read his details about being born in 1630 and died in 1716, and married Maria Montfort, and his son was on the same stone, Gregoris Storm, and the born and died dates and stuff, and that he died before his father, which is always a sad thing.
Right.
And also the name, I remember discussing this with the girls, the wife, and I don't know how to pronounce that name.
Engelte. Engelte. It's again, I'm not sure. I think it's Angela or some variation of something like that.
Right. And Angelica and Angela, something along those lines, some early form of that. Yeah. Right. And then we found that other Storm ancestor that had that circular plot. Right. And a circular, almost like a gazing ball.
Right.
For the stone. That was impressive. It was impressive in a giant cemetery filled with rectangular plots. To have the singular circular plot was very cool.
There has to be a meaning for that, but I don't know what that would be.
Yeah.
And one thing we did find, and we always notice other little things about other stones, and they all tell a story, and they're all historical, and this is the story of your town. When you go to the cemetery, you hear, you learn. So what we found especially sad was stones for 3 children, and we wouldn't have noticed, but the stones are connected,
they looked fused almost,
exactly. And they were, and it was a little bit difficult to read, but the stones were for 3 children. Their names were Georgie and Bertie Patterson, and Carrie, their friend. And I couldn't read Carrie's name, to tell you the truth. I've got a picture of the stone, but it's just kind of worn. It's hard to read. So the names and dates, like I said, they're difficult to read. But at the bottom of the stone, it was not difficult to read. Right across the whole bottom, it said, and this is unusual, but it said, they drowned together while playing with a sled on the ice of the Sawmill Pond at Kensico, December 5th, 1821. So the reason I find that just unusual, and I don't even know why we decided to stop and read that. Was it one of the girls pointed out to us? Or?
It was in an area where there were names that we were looking for.
Okay. All right. And we happened to read this stone. And so, it did catch our eye. So it's just not very often that you get a description of how the children died on the stone. It was like a little historical tidbit right there. And I did try to find a newspaper account of what happened, but I could not find anything that far back. And it would take more research time than I have at this time. But you don't really need to. You know that they drowned, and it says stone. So I don't know. That's just unusual to have. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, most children that
3
age,
of them together. It was awful.
I would have guessed typhoid or something like that. I would never have guessed. Well, drowning's not
scarlet fever,
right?
Or,
I would have guessed a virus is what I would have guessed.
Like
but
that.
Anyway, so that was interesting to learn too.
Yeah. And so we also spent an hour or so listening to a presentation in the Old Dutch Church about Hulda from Bohemia, which that was very, I listened to every word of that.
Right.
I think told the story of a healer. It was a really good presentation put on inside the Old Dutch Church, and they've recently put up a new stone for her in the cemetery. There's a new stone for Dirk Storm as well, but there's one of the older folks in the cemetery that is a very popular, I guess, historic figure, Katrina Van Tassel, whose stone is pretty much illegible at this point because somebody poured something on it.
Yeah,
it is crumbling. Somebody poured a substance on it so that they could make something to print things off to sell on Etsy, right, is what we were told.
That someone wanted to sell copies or imprints of that stone, and so ruined it.
Hopefully she's next in line for the new stone.
I'd vote for that, but the town, they seem to take a lot of pride in that cemetery, and they should, because it's it's how they get their business. I mean, so to speak, people come for the history. They should have, if that might be the next stone that they want to replace. Yeah. But
she was central in the story of the Washington Irving short story of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And the other big thing that we did was the parade in Tarrytown, the Halloween parade. And let me tell you, that was impressive. I'm really not that big of a parade person, and I'm not that big of a Halloween person, but I loved it.
Yeah.
And
it was a hoot.
It was so fun. And everybody was there. The crowd was great. Everybody was there to have a good time. Probably at least half of the people were in costume, I would say.
At least. Yeah.
Yep. And the floats and the people in the parade were great. It started off with the headless horseman chasing Ichabod Crane.
Yeah.
And it was the horses.
You didn't even cry.
No, I didn't even cry. Didn't even look away. The horses were gorgeous. These big, black, beautiful horses. And they knew how to play the crowd. I would say that they made a couple of loops back and forth before they moved on to the next section. And then it was just group after group of either talented musicians or young kids with a marching band, and like dancing troops and or acting groups or floats and so many great costumes. And I don't know, how else can you explain it, Kim? I don't.
Well, it's just so clever. And they're so creative. They've done this before. They know how to run it. It ran like clockwork. I mean, they had some of the streets blocked, or the street signs that said, you can only park here till 3. After that, we're towing you. And boom, everybody was gone. Just all of a sudden, all the cars disappeared. Yeah. And so it ran very smoothly. And I can't say enough about how great they were. But I think my favorite float was Captain Kidd versus the Hudson River Kraken.
Yeah. I don't even know if I could pick a favorite. I loved the group of hearses at the end.
Yeah.
With Michael Myers sitting in the passenger seat on one of them. Yeah. And the bloody handprints on the side. Yeah. And one of them was called the Dead Sled. All the stuff was so clever. And I was very, very pleased. I enjoyed myself with that.
Yeah. And who knew? I've never been much of a Halloween person, and I don't think I've ever been to a Halloween parade. No, in my life. I guess there are other places, but I wouldn't know anything about that. And that's all I've done is talk about it since I've come back. I told all my coworkers, they're probably sick of listening to me, but just, why haven't you go? You have to go. And so I think we could sign some people up next year. But anyway, so Laura and I are going to talk about the elephant in the room. You don't see it, but we do. We know it's here.
Yeah, it's a big elephant.
It's a big elephant. So we're going to talk about that. And so we what we did was we're going to talk about the parade, because number one, it was fantastic, but it's what happened during the parade. Laura and I, we and the crew, we sat down, we found a nice little bench right in the middle of it. It was right across from the post office. I mean, we had primo seats, and we all there was enough for 3 or 4 people to sit, and we all just took turns, and then when the parade came, it was, it was on. So we found that good spot, and it was about 80 degrees, and it was hot. It was hot that day, and I wasn't prepared for that. But I just want to mention, that the streets were flowing very well. I mean, people could come and go, and there was no big jams in the street or anything. And the kids were in the street. They were so excited. You had to be there. But so it was, we were just watching people all over the place, just all their costumes. And then Andy said, well, look, he said, I think this is the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman's coming. So of course I just pulled out my phone, and I just thought, well, all right. So I took the opportunity to whip out the cell phone, and I videoed what turned out to be the start of the parade. I didn't know it at the time. I thought it was just about time. And anyway, so here comes the horse. And so Andrew said that to me, but he didn't say that to Laura. He probably thought she might bolt. Here comes the Headless Horseman. Don't say anything. So anyway, I take out my phone, and of course, it was just the most magnificent entrance for what Laura was saying before about that beautiful horse. It was the beginning of the parade, and it was I'm going to say magnificent. That's my word for the day.
The horses were beautiful.
Yeah. And so I called them like sleek. They were sleek, the black horses, and the Headless Horseman was riding him. They were all in black. And of course he had the cape, and it flowed, and
he had no head.
He had no head.
Mm-hmm.
But you could have been in Hollywood. I mean, it was just well done. And I'm my other thought was, I wonder if they do this like at football games or high school games. That's the horseman.
That's a good thought. It could be.
We need to go back for football.
Could be well practiced.
Yeah, that's right. So that was really great. So, the thing was, I got it all on video, as did almost everybody else that was on that.
Who didn't get it on video?
Who?
Me. Because I hit the wrong button. Oh. I thought I videoed it, but I didn't. So that's didn't. Okay. Go on. You got it. So that's good.
I'm here for you. I got you. Yeah. So I got it on video, and we enjoyed the entire parade. I took pictures of everything, and it lasted about an hour. But that video, that night I went home, and I thought, maybe, I was checking my TikTok, and I thought, why don't I just put that horse on there and see? It was just a nice video of the horse. And I thought people might like that. I'm not all that fancy. I don't have 1 million followers, but I thought someone's going to like it. So I made a TikTok video, and I called it How to Start a Parade 101. That's what I called the video. So basically, if you want to start a parade, this is how you do it. You have this beautiful horse start it for you. And so I put it on there, and I had some really great hashtags, and I put it under Chasing Hazel's Tails, which is my TikTok account. And it was pretty popular. And so I thought, well, look at me. I've got, 1,000 views. And I've had that before, but that was pretty quick. And then the next thing I got 10,000 views. And then I got 100,000 views. And then it just took off. And so I don't really know what viral is, but people are telling me that it was viral.
I think you can safely say it went viral.
It went viral. It just took off. And so I just kept checking it, because I thought, that's the weirdest thing. I mean, it was really of no effort whatsoever. But after a few days, it was up to 1.4 million views. Million. 1.4 million.
I still can't wrap my head around that.
And that's where it is right now. Because when I got to 500,000, I said, well, there you go. That was a good run. No, it just kept going. So, but
I mean, TikTok, the timing was just right, though.
Exactly.
Halloween, Headless Horseman, New
York, Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool little video, and It's very short. The timing was right, I think.
Right. It was like a one-hit wonder of some sort. Mm-hmm. I mean, people loved it, and people either, and I'm going to say like 99% of the people, they were either nostalgic because they used to live there. People would make comments, and I don't know how many comments I've got. Hold you right on. I'll tell you. Let's see. I have over 500 comments.
My
So
favorites are the people who tried to tell you it wasn't in Tarrytown, that it was in Sleepy Hollow.
I know some people said, well, if you didn't know that there's two different towns and Sleepy Hollow is not Tarrytown. And so, but the truth of the matter is, Laura and I were sitting right across from the Tarrytown post office.
And the parade was in Tarrytown.
Was in Tarrytown. So just so that we get that out there. But then, a few people, so, that was what you call engagement. And that is what drives views. I think sometimes that makes TikTok put it out there. So anyway, but most of the people were nostalgic. I either I lived there, or I loved that book.
Yeah.
Or those horses are gorgeous, or anything like
or
that.
Or they also loved the guy eating the chips in the video.
There were other people around me, and when I'm taking the video, there's this guy in the front just stuffing his face. People noticed.
Yeah. Oh, people are funny.
They are funny, but if it hadn't been my video, I would have noticed that. So, but anyway, after a few days, it was 1.4 million, and that's where it is now. It's kind of leveled off. So I think people are done with it, and and it has nothing to do with genealogy, which is what my TikTok account is for. So I think that was my one-hit wonder, and it was just kind of funny. But if you want to check it out, you just have to try Chasing Hazel's Tales on TikTok. And anyway, so I had to put that out there because we all were just kind of shaking our heads about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if the guy knows he's famous. Stuffing his face with chips. Oh well.
Yeah. So anyway, after all of that, if anybody's ever considering it, if you are looking for any recommendations, yes, we would say, if you're ever thinking about going to Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow, we would say, by all means, go ahead and go. But keep a few things in mind. That parking is at a premium. You don't pay to park, right? For the most part.
The police officer told me, and I asked him, I wasn't pulled over or anything, but I asked him, how much it was to pay for parking. He said, we don't even collect on this weekend. He said, I believe in my mind what he was trying to say was, we don't have time to charge you. It's a good weekend. Come enjoy. You don't have to put any money in the meters. So we didn't.
Okay. So there were meters, but
there were meters, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see one parking lot that said pay $20 or anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't see that at all.
It wasn't downtown Portland.
Yeah.
$50 gets you all day.
Yeah, you want a small car.
Right.
And it is New York. You will get honked at.
That happened. I'm sorry. And another thing is the roads are narrow. I mean, so like
it's like Cambridge, Massachusetts, if you've been there.
Right. So the side streets that go away from Main Street and around, some of them are one way, but it's not that we couldn't find a spot. It's just that it's a small street, and so you have to be looking. And so I wouldn't, if you have a Cadillac Escalade or something like that, some big vehicle, I wouldn't do it unless you plan on parking a good distance away or get primo parking somehow, or learn some sort of hack. I wouldn't do it.
But overall, it was a fun visit. Lots of things to walk around and see and do, and just enjoy yourself. And especially if you like to walk through cemeteries. Yeah. And we didn't even mention the part about there's the part with all the famous people in one of the cemeteries.
Right. There's two different cemeteries. One is attached to the Dutch burying ground. And then the other one is Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, which is still active, meaning they are still selling plots. But they have so many big mausoleums and stones for famous people that people just love going. And we also went to the bridge that is in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, which is supposedly the bridge for the legend of Sleepy Hollow, for Ichabod Crane. That was fun. I like that bridge. That was pretty, down by the water.
That was a very nice little side trip. Yeah.
And they also have tours. They have walking tours that will tell you all the history of these famous people: Rockefellers, Fords, Chryslers, you name it. There's
Vanderbilts.
Maybe that's Dutch.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's plenty of tours, plenty of things to do, and there's plenty of the stuff on the websites, and there's even haunted tours, but we didn't do that.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
And there's some things that aren't suitable for children, and that means like the haunted tours at night, they just don't accept children. But for the most part, it's very family friendly. Bring your kids, have a good time. I didn't see one meltdown. I didn't see one child meltdown. They were having a good time.
Yeah. It's very good.
What else do we have? Yeah, just bring your sneakers. You'll find parking sooner or later. Just wear
It's
something comfortable.
a little San Francisco-esque.
Yeah.
The hills.
There are some hills. We went
Yep.
up several.
Yep. Some of the roads are pretty hilly. So
Yep. But
very
lovely.
nice. Very
Yep.
pretty. Yep.
Yep.
I
And
really
also
recommend.
you can go right down and see the Hudson River too. It used to be the Tappan Zee Bridge. Now it's the Governor Cuomo Bridge. But it's nice. They have a nice little walkway down there. There's a lot. You should go. That's all I'm going to say. You should go.
Yep. And it's not too far.
It's not that
away.
expensive.
Nope.
It's an easy drive from where we are in Maine, where I am in Maine.
Right.
Yep. Anyway,
Yeah.
so, we're going to leave that there. And we hope that you are able to go. Any questions, give us a call. We'll, happy to talk to you about it. Maybe I'll put some pictures now up on Instagram. I don't think I've put many up so far. I did on my Facebook account, but not Instagram. So be looking on Instagram. I'll see what I can do to put some cool pictures up there. Maybe I'll put the video again, see what happens. If you all want to see that guy munching on chips right before the horses come.
Oh, so until next time, please rate, review, follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We also invite you to reach out to us by email at chasinghazelsTales@gmail.com. Tell us your tales or share what you've learned or found interesting about your family. Let us know if you've shaken your family tree and had a few nuts fall out. But if you haven't seen any nuts fall out of the tree, you might just be the nut in your family. You can also follow us or contact us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Until next time, bye-bye.
See ya.